All right. What's up, y'all? So, today is the 11th of January, 2025. My name is Evan Strong. I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, and this is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. One third of us, we also have our main company side of things where we discuss the anatomy of the human body and clothing and the relationships between those two things. And then the other third that we do have is In the Image Clothing Company Music. We do all things music, setups with instruments, allow the body to work while we play instruments and sing, and I also just make music over there as well. It's really quite the thing to see. I mean, if you want to check it out. Now, In the Image Clothing Company, called that because we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. So, here on the podcast side of things, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I'm going to get into that. First, as I do, I'll do a little rundown of what our company is, and then we'll get on with this good old discussion, man. It's going to be really good. So, clothing for everybody. Just because clothing is the only thing that's placed on us at all times, it alters our bodies. We get into these chronic patternings, these universal patternings across the world. Rather, the other side of the earth, you can be over there and I can be saying things that are applying to you. Because even if you're not wearing the same clothing designs as this part of the world that I'm in, wherever I'm speaking out of personal experience from, oversized clothing will do the same thing to anybody, no matter where they are. Tying shoes unevenly will do the same thing to anybody, no matter where they are. And certain things like this within clothing, just having it not sit or fit correct, it's all doing the same thing to the body. And, a lot of people are not able to rid their chronic pain in their physical body. And we discuss the real, actual truth of what's causing these things. And it's not what most people know, and it's definitely not how most people address it, but it's the actual reason. And I always say, don't believe me. Don't believe me. Sinful by nature human beings, but we speak on, to the best of what we can, just universal truth, because that's what our whole company is just really giving actual real information across the earth. So, clothing for everybody needs to sit in a certain location. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or a tall person, a short one, any age, and any part of the earth. Our skeletal systems are universally designed and they just work how they do. And the body's not about the fat content that comes and goes, and so does the muscle mass. So it's just about our foundation. And in order to allow that to be in its only working position, the body only works how it does and only as a whole. Otherwise, there's plenty of things within the body that will be compensating for other things if anything's pulled out of its only working state. Okay? Now, so we understand where clothing needs to sit just to allow the body to work. Pants, for everybody, need to be entirely above the hips because our hips have their natural range of motion and they have their natural movements and functions. And we need our waistline up off of that. And it also needs to be slightly higher in the front than in the rear because our core is something that would always naturally be activated because it's the center of our whole body. That's its function. The muscles there, they have to shorten and contract to just work, and they always would be just doing what the body was designed to do as a whole, unless there was something external altering them. And in modern 2025, it's common for people to have a deactivated core, which is something that is actually it should never happen. And it's common to be that way nowadays. And so it is very strange and backward. And I was like that for years myself. So here I am, helping to change the world. Seriously. No joke. Now, the tops that we wear, the seams on top of our shoulders, need to sit behind that little bone that's up there because that's the other end of the collarbone, and that just allows our shoulders to be in their neutral position. For button-up shirts, as I mentioned, and I don't always mention this, but they are different because there's a band of material rather than just a singular seam for that top seam. So button-ups just kind of sit where they should. But we also need the edge seams of our shoulders to be ideally just right at the very edges, because that's where the shoulder moves in that ball and socket capsule up there. So in addition to just allowing clothing to sit on our bodies correct, In the Image Clothing Company has two prerequisites just to, in the ways that this does that, allow the body to be unaltered. The first one is our shoelace technique, found wherever you find us. With our technique, included is just to tie your shoes evenly over toward the inside to the center of your body on both feet to create an even foundation traveling up. And the second prerequisite that we have is to remove all tags from clothing that's anywhere, even within the shoes, because they're causing a gap in clothing, and down where our feet are, they're either altering the ankle's ability to naturally dorsiflex and plantar flex, or those arches within our feet are just being altered that are naturally there. So that's what we are. We show how to just allow the body to work. We've just been given this thing that's just designed to function. So there's no reason it wouldn't unless there wasn't a reason that it couldn't. That couldn't could be anything, but it is these things if it is. Meaning if there's anything imbalanced in clothing at all, it's doing what it's doing. And to anybody and everybody the same. Because that's just the truth, dude. So, and I speak out of example, I speak out of personal experience, and I have been documenting things since before my body was pretty much all the way out of these patternings, and you can just see the change within my body, and that's why I say that, truth manifests itself within you, so don't believe us. Please don't. Try these things, and then you don't have to believe anything, because truth is truth. So, in this episode of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 37, what I'm going to discuss is power in poverty. And we're going to get into this. It's going to be really cool. Here's the thing. I haven't had any kind of income in a little while, and that's been great, actually. Since I was in high school, 17 years old, till I was probably right around 22, I was just always so concerned about money, and I was so focused on it, and that was like my thing. The thing is, there's so many scriptures that say we are not going to take any kind of treasures with us to heaven, right? Everything that we have stays here. And I've said this many times, and this is just the case. It's not because I'm saying something, but the only thing we're actually promised in this physical life that we have here is our physical bodies. Because if we don't have our physical bodies, we don't have this life. That's what really determines a human being, is the fact that we have this fleshly mechanical machine that our whole company is geared around helping to be allowed to just do what it's designed to. So, yeah, man, I mean, that's all we're given. That's all we're actually promised. Everything that you ever want or need or ask for, desire or acquire or hope for or work for or anything on this earth will leave. Because even the people, I know that this is kind of a touchy subject for certain people, but I don't want to make it like, I don't want to be so light about it, because it's not a touchy thing as far as we're giving truth to people. The gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. And people do die. We all will. I will, he will, she will. And that's how it is. I mean, life is as much about death as it is about life. There'd be no life without death. And so even the people that we love the most, they will leave. The cars that we get, they will leave. The houses will leave. Everything. The status, the positions, I've mocked that so many times. And even, the sake of me, in a sense, I'm like the CEO of this company. Like, really, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to put a label on it, or I'm the this, or I'm the that, or it doesn't matter at whatever time. But I mock that kind of stuff, because once you're not anymore, you realize you weren't ever, whatever these titles that we want to place on us. So the titles leave. Everything leaves. Everything. While we're still here. But the only thing that doesn't is our physical body. So the reason I'm kind of starting this out with that is because when we put focus on things, and we want things and money especially, we kind of lose touch of who we are. And there's this movie called Cheaper by the Dozen. And that movie came to my mind as I was thinking about making this, well, not thinking about it, I got prompted to make this episode of the podcast here about a half hour ago. I started thinking about, all right, cool, I'll make this. And yeah, I got prompted because I've actually made 2 other episodes of the podcast within the past 6 hours probably. So episode 34 and 35. Nope, 35 and 36. Because this is episode 37 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. So yeah, but when we think about movies like Cheaper by the Dozen, and you see not that the family's necessarily so poor within that one, or at least not in the second one, because anyway, I don't know. If you've seen it, then okay. If you haven't seen it, I don't, want to ruin it for you, but also it's just a movie, Anyway, good movie. And that's why I'm mentioning it, is because you'll see, this family doesn't really live the kind of lifestyle that a lot of the people around them do. And that's why I say it doesn't matter if they had money or not in the movie, or if people in life, it's really about what the money can do, So you'll notice that, and I without talking down on anybody, just the case, I grew up with some families that were, relatively what you would call poor. And to a degree, that's kind of the lifestyle that I lived as well. But that's the thing, is all this stuff's, when it's all relative. It really is, and it all doesn't matter either. That's what I'm getting at, is what ended up happening within these families that I'm thinking about specifically, that really didn't have all that much money, but they had enough. They had what they needed. They had food, and they had a house and the transportation, and just they were okay. Those are normally the families that are actually the most real and the most content. And it's so common, man, to see within Christian families, or just Christian lifestyles of individuals, that they don't have all that much money. And, shoot, man, without anyone trying to take this the wrong way, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, but on your end, don't take this the wrong way. But, a lot of communities in the United States of America where there's gangs and stuff, it's really common for there to be a lot of Christians within there, and I think, it really is common to have this view. This isn't me trying to just say something or anything, but I mean, I've definitely seen and heard this, be thought about this way by so many people throughout my life. So I'm going to say this how it is. So take it however you take it, but I don't mean this with any kind of offense. But I know, it's been a common thing for me to hear people talking about these black communities, across the United States. And I think there's a whole different kind of culture, dude. Well, I mean, black people just come from a whole different culture than Caucasian Americans, even if they were also born in America, right? There is just kind of a different culture that it's all stemmed from, and it's cool. Dude, I love it, dude. Listening to, black gospel music, man. It's a whole different thing. That's what I mean. It's not about the color of the skin, but it's about you know what I mean? There is culture that's just mixed in with stuff like that, to where there's I did a whole episode of the podcast on diversity. If you want to go check that out. I mean, I don't know. Whatever you want to think about what I think about stuff, it's fine. But dude, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying, is there's some, well, I think that's a big thing of why I'm kind of mentioning that, is because that is why, is within black gospel music, man. I mean, traditional, or I mean, anybody can sing any kind of music, but traditional, black gospel music, man. You got these women screaming the Holy Spirit, man. You know what I mean? In all seriousness, that stuff brings me crazy joy, man. Because that's what I'm talking about, is there's a very, very prominent Christian community within black America, if you will. It's 2025, bro. I know some people taking stuff all kinds of ways, but we're just human beings, you know? I mean, we're just human beings, but there really is, you know, because a lot of it comes with culture, man, and I know it's like, you know, very common for Black Americans to be Christian, you know, and they got a whole different kind of way of worshiping, man, and, like, in those, like, traditional, like, you know, Black gospel choirs, you know what I mean? I love it, dude, and why I'm saying that is also, like, wow, see, because this is in the Image Clothing Company, man, which is real. So, you know, within Black communities in the United States of America, you know, it's been historically, like, if we're just getting real with it, it's been historical, like, statistic, you know, if you want to go back and look at it. And well, I mean, because yeah, I mean, Black people were at one time slaves in the United States of America, and so coming from that, yeah, they had a start that was just like lesser than white people because they didn't even have rights. And so, you know, it's what I'm getting at is, well, that, yeah, you know, coming from that's the whole thing. It's, gosh, I mean, yeah, coming from humble beginnings, you know, I mean, coming from a place where they didn't even have rights, dude. They couldn't do anything even if they were more capable than everybody else, like a single person, you know, just because they were Black. And so what I'm saying is like, it is, you know, you go back in the history of it in the United States of America is what I'm speaking about right now. You know, it's been the case that Black communities were traditionally and like statistically poorer, you know? You growing up in like a Black ghetto community or whatever, because that's just how it, you know, there's like a just a transitional period. Because that's a big thing to see. If people are getting any kind of idea of what I'm talking about with race or whatever, I think we get kind of forgetful that human beings are just human beings, and for thousands of years, people have just enslaved other types of people. Black people enslaving white people, brown people enslaving white people enslaving, you know, animals in certain ways. Like, you know what I mean? It was just seriously, if you had a bigger stick than the other dude, then you were in charge, you know. And it didn't matter if you were Black or if you were white or if you were, you know, whatever color you could be, or if you were from any part of the world. It was just who thought they were in charge at the time, and there they go. You know, they're holding the bigger stake. They're gonna beat you with it, like that. Really, and that's just how human beings are forever. So you can talk about race forever and get caught up on it as far as like a certain time period and how things are looking, but really, what you're just talking about is discrimination against another human being. You know, I mean, you can have just white people against white people, quote unquote, and like it doesn't matter about race. But shoot, I love this because I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I also just I love it because people avoid it, dude. I mean, you're talking about it. Ideally, in the Image Clothing Company, we're just talking about stuff as it is, you know. And that's what I'm saying is just statistically, yeah, you've got these like Black ghetto communities just because they've had to work their way out of this complete like inequality